Hello. I'm back. I wanted to make a video about Wild Assault. I think ever since this mechanic was implemented, it caused a lot of people lose interest in the game, and I think, no, I'm sorry, I don't think. I know a lot of people, or majority of players, would rather just play without it and like have it not be in the game than actually it being in the game. What it's done unrepairable damage. I'm gonna make this video into different sections. I'm gonna talk about orange first, and then I'll talk about white, and then we'll get into blue. Orange is, Orange Wild Assault at the start of 3.0. Back to the release of Johnny, this definitely ruined the game. All of them did, but Orange in particular was definitely the one that caused the biggest downfall. To start, this alone made characters like, it made your basic Shoto the GOAT. Kai went from being strong to being top 5. The only reason he wasn't the best in the game is just because he couldn't, his on block pressure, there's no mix up to it exactly. So it wasn't as scary as you would think. But he was the neutral, GOAT. I'm going to use Kai as an example, but this does carry over to other characters. So let's kind of talk about Orange Wild Assault on release. Obviously this during the time that Orange Wild Assault, not Orange, but all of them Hard Knockdown. It allowed characters to do combos that just couldn't be done before. We lived in a world where Happy Chaos was known as the, I take you to the wall off hit character, right? And then he kind of lost that specialness to him, and it kind of carried over to most characters with Orange Wild Assault. Soul was taking you with wall-to-wall combos, Kai, there was everyone was. If you had Orange Wild Assault, you were taking characters through the wall, especially off round start. In a situation where Kai's off non-counter hit far slash, the combo would be something like this, right? Or even let's say, this for example, or right? Something like that. This then turned into this. Yeah, right? It was insane. Not only this, but the autopilot it allowed. Okay, so for example, at this time, Wild Assault, it's a frame slower now, but back during this time, it was a frame faster. Currently, with Wild Assault, to do combos, like the wall-to-wall combos, now, they have to be crouching. So you can do this, right? This works in the current game, right? They have to be crouching. Previously, it didn't matter whether they were crouching or standing. You could always do it. So this would... Right? You can break the wall here, so let me do the combo to... Oh, wait. Yeah, you don't even have to spend the meter there, you could just do another Wild Assault, right? It was... Oh my gosh, what a funny time, right? So a lot of times, the moment if you're playing an Orange Wild Assault character and you saw the counter hit, you were just buffering, you were just going straight into it, right? You just go straight into it. You take him through the wall, you wall splat, and the burst gain and the how long positive bonus lasted was insane during this time. It didn't matter. You would do this, right? It didn't matter if you spent 100. Let's just say you do some boof combo, stuff like this didn't matter because you would break the wall and then you just get it your burst back instantly, right? So there was no resource management, there was no finesse. It was bad. A very dark time we lived in. Another thing about this is this goes for all Wild Assaults, but I'll do a basic Kai combo. So let me even think. Kai combos. Okay, so look how much burst he just lost. It's insane. This would lock you out of burst, and depending on the character, you would get put in another situation where you would block, and if it's a mix-up character, you couldn't burst. So essentially, you would just, a lot of times you'd lose the game. You just could not win. Characters like Ino, characters like Soul, characters had some crazy high-lows, especially with RC. It was, positive bonus was truly just, I win. And Orange Wild Assault characters definitely just had the best of it. Oh my gosh, especially Soul. Oh my gosh, Soul was absurd, dude. Okay, so yeah, you got locked out of your burst. And on top of that, it carried a lot of momentum during this time. So what that means is situations like this, you see how like the momentum just carries over. Like it's absurd. It doesn't do this as well now, and I'll get into that later. But you know, some things as well, like kind of going back to combos. So for example, this is usually Kai's like mash combo. So you do this, right? You know, stuff like that. And then I already showed the other combo, but this then turned into this. Like, dude, what the... What? You were essentially like, oh, dude, if you had 100 bursts, like you just... it was dark times. It was dark times. It also, like, the risk it put on block, like, dude, look at the risk. Characters like Kai that had worse offense, right, kind of struggle to enforce anything from, like, this range off making you block this. This turning into this is huge. And don't be wrong, there's better players, like, it's usually, like, it's not the end of the world because, like, you know, it's whatever, but, you know, it's kind of absurd. I mean, being able to continue a turn, especially, like, with the wrist being built, you know, even if you, like, hold, like, a throw here, right? So let's say this happens, right? And let's just say you get a throw, right? You know, just the damage from the risk off like simple things like throw RC is absurd. You know, you would be the on block situation, you know, like I was saying, so like close slash, you'd be able to do close slash and then automatically do close slash again. Being able to punish fuzzy jump easier. Just putting people in situations where they would have to hard guess, especially if your name is Soul Bad Guy. But yeah, no, dark times. This did end up getting nerfed. So one thing I'll say about Wild Assault is if you have, and this is mainly for orange, but if it's something you have to nerf every single patch, like, dude, just get rid of it. Every single patch that has been added to this game, it has gotten nerfed. So it's like, but it did receive some nerfs. The first batch of nerfs it received was the charge. So draining your burst. So it went from 25% to about 7%. So basically, it's still a lot less bursts, meaning you didn't just get locked out and put in situations where you just lost. Yeah, the startup was changed. So you couldn't just autopilot, you know, combos like, you had to kind of look to see whether the opponent was standing or crouching, right? Because this no longer worked on standing. So I guess it kind of gave players, like, you kind of had to look at the screen, like, kind of, like, keep an eye open just, you know, to see whether they're standing or crouching. On top of that, I mean, they did some buffs to the other Wild Assaults. That's pretty much it for orange. But yeah, no, this, like I mentioned earlier as well, the pushback, also, like, the momentum was changed to try to get rid of, you know, like, the whole, like, the characters be able to get close slash so easily off, you know, using it. It's still really strong to this day. It has gotten, like I said and explained, it has gotten nerfed over time. Some more like scaling changes as well. So it's not as punishing getting hit by, but it's still absurd, especially for the, it's also kind of sad that they, you know, characters were balanced around Orange Wild Assault. Like, I believe one of the reasons, or like theories out there, is Johnny was, I mean, not theory, I mean, he was the first DLC character to be released with, like, Wild Assault. So they had to keep Wild Assault in mind when balancing him, which is, I think, part of the reason they said that they, like, had, like, 3 different versions of Johnny and then went with the current one that we have at the start of, the, you know, this 3.0 patch. I mean, it's tough. With how strong it was, I don't know what they were thinking, but, I mean, that Wild Assault essentially saved, like, Kai didn't have Wild Assault, he would be, like, not even half as strong as what he was at 3.0, right? You know, goes for Johnny, he was saved by Orange Wild Assault, only thing keeping him from being way lower on the tier list. It saved a lot of characters. Oh man, that was, yeah, that was weird. Obviously now, some characters, like, or not some characters, I'm mainly talking about Elfelt. Like, Wild Assault, it went from more of like strike throw characters to kind of just like characters that now have like mix-ups. So like Elfelt having Orange Wild Assault kind of changes the way it's used. Like, she kind of uses Orange Wild Assault like Blue Wild Assault. It's kind of funny. I mean, yeah, no, it was crazy. Chip was able to break the wall off like 5p from full screen. Like, a very funny time. Very funny time. But that's enough about orange. Oh, actually, sorry, one more thing I want to mention. I'm not sure if I already mentioned it, but this, okay, so being able, especially as an Orange Wild Assault character, being able to keep the meter that you have to do wall assault. So I'll get into, like, if anything, it's more broken with some blue characters, but I mean, I think this definitely was the strongest on Soul. Being able to do this and then go into you know, wall assault and not waste any meter. So like, for example, if you had, so let me do this. Oh. Right, so essentially if I had 50 bar here, I just keep that 50 bar instead of doing super. I get the hard knockdown, and now, like, you're locked out of your bursts, and I essentially just, like, kill you, right? Burst changes, with wall assault nerfs, burst changes also happen, how I mentioned, you know, you didn't get all your bursts back, right? You kind of, positive bonus lasting shorter. They also made changes to make, like, wall splat not give as much burst, or wall break not give as much burst, as it was kind of obnoxious, because if you were higher HP character, it felt like sometimes when you got hit by lower damage characters, you were actually getting healed because you just got all your burst back. And then if you had orange wall assault, it's like, oh, okay, well, when I'm right, next turn is going to lead to a wall break. Like, sorry, you know, stuff like this, like, this is silly right here. Like, you know, even, like, we're going through the wall. Yeah, I believe that is it for orange. Now we can talk about white. Okay, it's pretty obvious who I was gonna get on the screen for this topic in particular about white wall assault. Gold Lewis. So let's talk about white wall assault. White wall assault, like, saved Gold Lewis, man. It helped a lot of characters like Bedman, Gold Lewis. Some characters didn't really use it like that. Like Nago didn't use it as well, right? Pot needed it, but even then he wasn't using it as well, and his wall assault was like shorter. But Gold Lewis, you can see the distance it goes. It actually does not go. It goes pretty far, but compared to how far it goes currently, which I don't even need to put on the screen or demonstrate. But I mean, dude, it like hits from here uncharged. Like I believe they made it go 45% farther when they buffed the distance. But White Wall Assault, it was introduced. We all thought it was good, but no White Wall Assault character was like breaking the game with White Wall Assault, if that makes sense. It was just really good, but it wasn't like, it was annoying to fight. It just wasn't like absurd, but for sure helped out. But for sure buff characters like that obviously had it. I mean, it's an invincible lariat. The frame data, it was +7 uncharged, so it had guard crush. So you see the guard crush. White Wall also became absurd when they obviously buffed the distance. I don't need, like I said, I don't need to show it. It kept its guard crush set +7 and then +12 charged, and the charged version went farther. Essentially, you were going full screen with an invincible reversal. Invincible lariat. That I mean, it still does to this day. Hard knockdowns on hit. You know, let characters get started. It, like I said, a guard crush plus double digits is just crazy on this. Like, it doesn't make sense. They did end up nerfing this, so it did go to being -3, whether charged or uncharged. They also removed the guard crush on it. It's still very good to this day, but it's just annoying more than it is absurd. Orange Wall Assault has, I believe, always been the best. Even with how absurd White Wall Assault was. I think White Wall Assault was absurd because Gold Lewis had it, and he was the only White Wall Assault character to have it. Or I guess him and Bedman, and those are the two characters that used it the best. They had run, like, they could run, right? And them being able to run, especially with White Wall Assault that carried momentum, was, dude, it was, it was funny. Very funny. I mean, their matchup spreads literally flipped upside down. Gold Lewis entered the top tier. Like, it was, wow. What a dark time we lived in. No one was happy. They also reduced the pushback by 50% to make it so it's you can't just like get out, right? You know, before, due to the pushback, you know, you'd be here. Like, when you're -3, being like here, for example, isn't bad at all, but they wanted to put you closer to the opponent, so there's less options to RPS and, you know, get out. The opponent can take their turn, but versus some characters, like, it's still pretty hard to actually get your turn, it feels. Yeah, overall, White Wall Assault, absurd. The thing with White, though, is you actually weren't really using it to, like, there's only a couple characters with White that were using it to, like, break the wall. Gold Lewis wasn't that because he kind of kills you before you actually broke the wall. And characters like Nago would use it, but not as much as you would see a blue or orange wall assault character use it. The main like offender of using white wall assault on wall break was actually Bedman. Yeah, it was definitely Bedman. Bedman and Nago more than Gold Lewis and Pot, which for obvious reasons. I mean, those characters just like killed you. Nago does too, but it's weird. Nago does, okay. A lot of times when Gold Lewis would break, like, wall splat you, it would be in a situation where he actually just couldn't use it, and I believe that goes for Pot as well. Also, Pot just couldn't really get anything, like, after the wall break, so you kind of save it for the most part. So, yeah, I'd definitely say Bedman, and while Nago did kill you fast, he could use it after, it was either after an FSS wall splat or a 6H wall splat, but he'd go into Wall Assault, and then from there, obviously, Nago gets a true BD. So it's obviously like Fukio and whatnot. But yeah, White Wall Assault, absurd, has been toned down a lot, still really strong. They haven't reduced the distance ever since they increased it. It still goes very far. And like I said, I don't need to show on the screen because I mean, dude, everyone remembers the horrors of fighting Gold Lewis with that Wild Assault, dude. Like it's, it also, one thing about White Wall Assault as well is it was a legitimate round start option. It was plus on block. It was hard to react to. It was hard to throw. The counterplay was to throw it, but at certain ranges you couldn't throw it, so you actually just got counter hit. Charge, I mean, still gives a combo like to this day. But yeah, no, the round start, like Gold Lewis was known before season 3 was a terrible round start character. So the fact that he was able to, you know, win round start and take more space due to the threat of this, like it got to the point where when White Wall Assault was at its peak, Gold Lewis had some of the best, like, neutral in the game, it felt. Like, the highest, like, this character's neutral used to be garbage. Like, it used to be trash. He used to, like, lose so badly to some characters because he could not play the game because he was locked out. So White Wall Assault, like, him kind of being balanced around White Wall Assault a bit outside of his offense. Like, it's absurd. Characters being balanced around the Wild Assault that they have. So, a lot of times, I mean, you see when Wild Assault, you've seen tier lists. When Wild Assault gets nerfed, characters that relied and crunched on it heavy also go down the tier list a lot. Next, let me get Blue on the screen. Let me grab a character that comes to mind. Let's talk about Blue. Okay, so Blue Wild Assault. So Blue Wild Assault was, okay, so to recap, Orange was obviously for more of the Shoto characters that kind of were more based off strike throw. There was a few exceptions like Ino, and obviously exceptions now like Elfelt, but mostly for the strike throw characters, more for the characters that are, I guess, the combo monsters. Obviously, there's a bunch of characters that have Blue that are combo monsters like Asuka and Happy Chaos, but Blue is more for, it's known as like, it's the mix-up Wild Assault. So if you think of Zato, like you do like Wall Assault into drills, right? If you think of other characters like Faust can do like Blue Wall Assault, like item eat, and then still be plus enough for like a close slash, for example. You would have characters like Slayer that would go into it and then can get like a actual true mix-up. Milia, you know, Bad Moon, right? So it was, Bridget would be able to set up like her yo-yo. You know, you had characters like Biken be able to set up the tether, for example. So it's more of the mix-up Wild Assault. So it's slower. It's not as fast as Orange Wild Assault, which is why, for example, if I were to do like on Kai, right? You know, even like Far Slash, for example, into Orange Wild Assault is a true combo. But Far Slash from the Blue Wall Assault is not a true combo. Blue Wall Assault, I mean, it staggers on hit, right? So you can essentially combo into throw, right? Yeah, they're all a lot different. White was obviously for the big bodies, right? It's kind of self-explanatory for that one. But yeah, Blue Wall Assault was, I guess to kind of tap back into it, is a slower pressure reset that was, again, it definitely varied in strength between characters that had Blue Wall Assault. Asuka was definitely one of the stronger characters at using it, and for Blue Wall Assault characters as well. Since usually the Orange Wall Assault characters didn't have like the mix-ups they were doing outside of like Soul wasn't really like extremely like, they weren't like actual mix-up 50-50s, right? I mean, obviously Kai would do like stuff like this. But Blue Wall Assault characters, it was important for them that, you know, it was hard knockdown so that they were able to save the meter they built doing the combo before they broke the wall, and then use the Blue Wall Assault, and then from there, be able to set up their win con or go into whatever they wanted using the meter that they saved from the hard knockdown with the Blue Wall Assault, if that makes sense. So, yeah, those are the differences between those. But anyway, to talk more about Blue Wall Assault. So, Blue was actually considered the weakest, and it's kind of been considered the weakest. They made it a little more plus in one of the patches, but when it came out, again, it was considered the weakest. I think because with Orange, it was consistently good across all characters, right? And with White, it was the characters that the characters that used it, like, needed it. Like, they needed it. Gold Lewis, like, needed it. His neutral was, like, really bad, but it was a little overtuned, right? But Pot literally, like, bro, he was on life support with, like, you know, White Wall Assault was literally, like, pumping oxygen to him, like, to stay alive, right? Blue characters, it felt like a lot of them, it was, okay, let me just talk about it. So, Blue was inconsistent because a lot of characters, like, it was crazy how, like, some characters used it really well and others just didn't use it well, like, at all. Like, you know, you had, like, for example, like, Zato, I feel like Zato didn't use it well at all, right? And when he used it, like, you could basically always throw it. Some characters could go into it, like, gapless. Some characters could special cancel into Blue Wall Assault and, like, make it true. The post situation afterwards was, I will say this, the post situation afterwards though, if you had Blue Wall Assault, usually meant you were like some sort of like set play, like mix up character, and the post wall break situation was just so good for you. I mean, Zato, when Eddie died, Blue Wall Assault, hard knockdown, sword super, and then like from there, like you're locked out of your burst, right? You know, you had Milia that, oh my gosh, Milia, dude, when Blue Wall Assault lost our knockdown, Milia went from top 10 to bottom, like, 5, dude. Like, the character was so crunched on Blue Wall Assault hard knockdown. You know, characters, like, you know, Slayer would get true mix-ups off it. Like, it was kind of crazy. Like, it did vary, like I said, though. It definitely did vary. Like, Baiken, for example, she didn't really use it too well, right? Like, it was good, but I guess it was the most inconsistent one, I want to say. I know that sounds weird because it's still, like, they're all strong, so it's weird saying it's the worst one, even though it's, like, absurd. But what I mean by this, so for example, like, Asuka is one of the characters that use it the best, and the reason why, so, one, you don't have to worry about getting thrown out of your, like, into Blue Wall Assault. You can't throw, this is unthrowable since the 2Ds are projectile, and even then, like, stuff like this, let's say, like, this is gapless, right? And even better, oops, sorry. This 5K is gapless from the Wild Assault. So, like, it was crazy. And, like, don't even get me started on the post-wall break situation, dude. I mean, you would, like, okay, so you would break the wall, so let's just say you do something like, right? You would do this, even if you used all your spells. Let's say I had no spells, right? They're hard knockdown. If you had 50 bar, like, you know, or you didn't have the meter, or you wanted to save the meter to go into, like, spell super afterwards, then you just could, right? And then essentially you hard knocked down them, you kept your meter, and now they're waking up to the best cards you have, and they just lose the game. They're locked out of their burst. Right, again, it was good, or it was broken on some characters. Happy Chaos could go into it from steady aim, so yeah. I don't know what else to kind of talk about it with it. I mean, a lot of characters with Blue, like I said, relied on it. The post-wall break situation was just really, really, really strong with those characters. And so when it went, a lot of the Blue Wall Assault characters suffered, I'd say they suffered the most from the loss of hard knockdown Wild Assault. I truly do believe that. Milia, Asuka, Zato, Abba, right, Jacko, like those characters, like they essentially, like, I don't think Jacko as much, but I'm just thinking, I guess I just have Milia, like an image of Milia in my head. Like that character fell off. Oh my gosh. I guess, you know, using it, using orange was so much more like, it was just, oh, it was so much more consistent, if that makes sense. Like, you just literally press a button in neutral, right? Like, you're just playing neutral, and then you do this, and boom, like, you're in it. You're going through the wall. With blue, you can't just, you can't just do that. It's more of an on-block tool, and if you try to do this, you just get, like, situations like this, you'd get thrown due to blue wall assault being slower. So, yeah, I don't know. It was really strong, but it was just the post-wall break situation, since you couldn't actually like use it to start your combos or whatnot. Again, there are some characters in this game that have blue that kind of use it like orange, like Slayer, for example, but it's more character specific. It's not, you don't just see everyone using it like orange. The joke was at one point, if characters had orange wall assault, they would be a lot better than like if they had like, blue, which, I mean, it was undebatable. Like, orange was extremely, extremely strong. Yeah, that's kind of it. Like I said, it did get like a frame more plus before, or I mean later on. I don't know, I'm kind of curious to everyone's thoughts. Do you miss the hard knockdown on Wild Assault? I mean, thoughts on Wild Assault in general? Do you like it? Do you hate it like most other people? I personally hate it. I wish it wasn't in the game, but we live, right, I guess. But yeah, that's pretty much it for me. Thank you everyone for watching, and until next time, thank you.